Hey everybody, it's future Braden. I just finished up my interview with David of Solar Whisper. Super awesome interview. Had a great time. He's an awesome guy. Just a couple quick things I forgot to mention during the episode. One, you may notice Brennick's absence in this episode. It's currently 5:20 in the morning. Australia is at a very different time zone than Northern Ontario and Ontario, Canada in general. So Brennick sat this one out after a 14-hour shift at work. I don't blame him in the slightest. So I took this one solo with David, um, and it rocked. It was super good time. Brennick's going to be jealous. Uh, the other thing I wanted to mention is I plan on launching the Patreon by the time this episode's up. So please check the description for not only our guests' socials, but also our Patreon. Check that out if you want to support us. There's going to be some extra content up there. Don't know what it is yet. There's going to be some, hopefully a lot. As well as the idea for that is it'll help us pay for the show. It may not seem like shows like this are expensive, and they're really not. There's not a whole lot of upfront costs at all. But when you're a poor little bitch like me, you kind of need everything you can get. So if you want to check out that Patreon to support us in this endeavor, that would be super awesome. If not, love you all the same. So sorry Brennick's not in this one, but oh well, you'll live without him. So enjoy the interview with David White of Solar Whisper. It was a good one. I had a blast talking to him. I think you guys will too. And if not, Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Creature Crossing podcast. My name is Braden, and today I am joined by a fantastic guest, David White of Solar Whisper, Daintree River Crocodile and Wildlife Cruises. David, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
That's quite a mouthful.
Yeah, it is.
I almost ran out of breath saying it.
Yeah.
Now, I really appreciate you coming on, and I'm super excited to have you. I actually have followed your Facebook page and your Instagram for probably half a decade at this point.
Yeah.
So it's super awesome to actually be able to talk to you and put a face to the account there.
Yeah.
So just for the people who may be listening, can you tell me well, first of all, can you tell me who is David White and what is Solar Whisper there?
Yeah. Well, my name's David White, and I live in far north Queensland in Australia, right up the top right-hand corner of Australia and the tropics. And I have a business called Solar Whisper Wildlife Cruises, and we take people out on the Daintree River and show them crocodiles and other wildlife we can find. So the boat's electric. We've got two boats. They're both electric. So solar panels on the roof to help charge the batteries up. So they're nice and quiet, and we can get close to wildlife without disturbing it or any pollution, because they're nice, quiet, clean electric motors. So
Have
yeah,
you
that's
have
what it
you
is.
been on the river in a gas powered boat before?
Yeah, when I first started, I used to work for other people. I've been working on the river for 20. This is my 29th year. And when I first started, I was driving for other companies and in a petrol powered boat. And yeah, the customers and the wildlife seemed to love it when I turned the motors off. So when I finally found a permit to operate on the river, I thought it would be nice to start my own business. I got the last permit available on the river, and started my own business. I thought it'd be nice to have a quiet boat and no exhaust or fumes. So started in 2002 and been going ever since with the electric boats.
Wow. And based on what you just said there, that must make a huge difference. The difference between the loud petrol boats and the quiet electric boats.
Yeah. The people really appreciate it. They love it. They find it very relaxing, and you can hear nature, hear the birds and the wildlife, and enjoy the ambience of the river without any fumes or noise in your ears. So yeah, the people love it, and I think the crocodiles appreciate it too.
Oh yeah.
And the birds, it definitely makes it easy to get closer to the birds without scaring them with the quiet motors. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, embarrassingly, I'll admit I didn't realize that's why you're called Solar Whisper until like a day ago. I only
Yeah,
just put that together while I was like looking through your website and doing some stuff there, and I was like,
yeah.
oh my god, how did I not clue into that? But man, I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So you touched on it a little bit. Can you tell me, just go into a little more depth on what made you decide to start your business, um, doing what you do?
Well, I just love working on the river, and I love crocodiles, and
Mhm.
I just thought it would, getting that last permit was an opportunity, and I started. I didn't know anything about running my own business, and it's been a big, steep learning curve, and still learning. But at first it was very quiet, but over time we've built up a following, and yeah, quite busy now. It is our quiet time of the year at this time of year, but we're going well and got quite a reputation around the place, and yeah, we stay pretty busy now. But at first it was very hard because no one knew who we were. So it took a while to get people to know who we were, and of course the social media helps a lot with that.
Well, that's I was gonna say that too. I mean, now you're known all over the world. I mean, I'm in Canada and I hear about you all the time. I have lots of friends. Whenever I go to your Instagram or your Facebook profile, all I see is how many mutuals of my friends follow you, and I think I think it's awesome. I think what you do is super cool. Now, specifically, I was gonna say that like it's almost like having in our community a celebrity on the podcast, but you see yourself more as the paparazzi. Am I right?
Well, I've always, trying to find these crocodiles. They're really good at hiding and following around, and all the big cameras pointing out the side of the boat. And it always felt like I was the wildlife paparazzi trying to get photos of these celebrities on the river because they have names and they're very well known all around the world. And and there's all the gossip that goes on behind the scenes that we try and dig out the dirt and share it to the rest of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys have taken that whole your your wildlife is your celebrity to a whole new level. You guys have, like you said, you have worldwide followings for crocodiles that people have never met or seen aside from online, and that's a really cool thing to see. You don't see that a lot unless it's these big YouTube pet channels, you know what I mean? And for you guys to
Yeah.
be doing that just from your day to day on the river is really cool. Now,
Yeah.
you were on the river today, obviously,
Yes.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
your job, which
Yeah.
is super interesting and very very cool. I have very little saltwater crocodile experience. I've worked with one at a zoo when I was 13. We had a female named Bindi. I have no
Yeah.
idea where she is these days, because that zoo's closed down.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's in good hands because the zoo is a nice place. But
Yeah.
the only other experience I have is this saltwater crocodile skull behind me from an old museum, um,
Right.
a museum collection, and then I got one tattooed on my arm because they're my favorite. Um,
Yeah. They're cool
well,
creatures.
they're my second favorite crocs, but I wasn't going to tell you that, but I just did. So, but
What's the favorite?
the Cubans.
Oh, the ones that run around.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love those Cuban Crocs. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've been to Cuba. I've been a couple times, and it's an awesome country. And then hearing about those
No,
Crocs,
I
super
haven't. I
cool.
haven't been there, but I've seen the videos of them enriching them
Oh,
in zoos where they chase them around
yeah,
the yard. Yeah,
it's
running
fascinating, eh?
crocodiles. Yeah.
Absolutely. So now you work on the Daintree River. Can you tell us a little bit about the Daintree River? What's the environment like? What is the river like, and what species you see on the river most commonly?
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, up in the tropical part of Australia. Australia is a very dry, arid country, but there's this very unique little strip along the coast here on the northeastern corner that's got tropical rainforest. So the river comes down from the mountains and through the World Heritage tropical rainforest, and where we work is a tidal area. It's brackish water, so yeah, a mixture of salt and fresh. In Australia here we have two different types of crocodiles, but we don't have any freshies in the Daintree River. They're not far
Oh, I was
away. They're
going to
just
ask you about that.
on the other side of the mountains, just to the west of us a little bit. But mainly in fresh water, and you can have a swim with them. They're considered harmless. They don't bother you, but we don't swim where I work because the saltwater ones live in there and they are the biggest in the world. And, if you're in the water with them, they might eat you. And their name is confusing. Obviously, they don't care where they live as long as the water's warm enough. They're happy in the salt or the fresh. They're just called saltwater crocodiles because they can live in saltwater, but they don't have to. So, most rivers around here we can have to swim where the rapids are. It's too cold for the crocodiles. So we're very lucky here that we can swim in our creeks and rivers where the rapids are because it's too cold for the crocs. But further down all the rivers here where the water's warmer, we have crocodiles. And the Danger River is quite a big river, and it's very shallow, so it warms up nicely. We do have crocodiles right up above the rapids. It's a very unique river, actually, that most crocodiles aren't found very high up, but these ones can go up to 300 metres above sea level, right up where you wouldn't normally expect to get crocodiles, but there's big ponds up above the rapids, and they've got up there probably when they were little, climbed up around the rapids, and they've got quite big right up there, and very hard place to get to. You can only see them from helicopters or if you walk for a day or two to get up there. So, fairly unique. Yeah, but where we work is much more accessible, and it's not a big population. Different parts of Australia have different densities, and where we work is a low density area. Very hard work today. It's summer now and it's very hot, and the girls are nesting, and the water temperatures. The other day before we had a whole lot of rain, it was 32 degrees in the river, so like a bath. And the crocs, they don't need to get out when it's that sort of temperature. We had a lot of rain. It went down to 24, and it got a little bit easier to see them. But now it's going up again. It's a bit over 30 now, and they can hold their breath for hours. So it's a real challenge for them this time of the year. In the winter, it's easy. They're all sitting up on the bank smiling for the cameras all day long. But this time of the year, it's a challenge. We rely a lot on the little ones. The little ones keep us going because they can't hold their breath as long, and they're more likely to be out of the water, and they're often in the same place. So we ask our customers to try not to be sizist at this time of the year, and the little ones keep us going. And occasionally we see a big one pop its head up for a quick breath and go back down again. But it's a challenging time of the year right now.
Wow. Yeah, that's it's kind of the opposite challenge here in Canada because I have 15-foot snowbanks on either side of my driveway, and it's minus 50 Celsius right now in northern Ontario.
I just can't.
So
I can't believe it.
I can't say temperature wise. I'm jealous. I'm very jealous. I don't like the cold, but I can see why. Plus 30 all summer too. I forgot that our seasons were switched. Actually, I forgot it's summer over there.
We're pretty soft here. We're pretty soft here. So anything like the air temperature, if it's below 25 degrees, we start complaining a lot. We reckon it's a cold
day. Above 25. Oh, you should see some of us complain. I love the heat. I always have, but the people here, I hear a lot of complaining. Anything plus like 15, 20 Celsius, and I'm like,
it's all what you're used to. So obviously the crocodiles are a bit soft too, so they don't like cold weather. So that's why they're here. Further south you go in Australia, eventually you don't get any more crocodiles if you go further south in the sort of bottom of the Great Barrier Reef. That's about their southern range. It gets too cold down there then. So the further north you go, the more there are. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you? I really quick, just a side away. I read a paper a couple weeks ago, and I just was curious about your experience. If you've seen, and if not, totally cool. If you've experienced this, I read a paper where saltwater crocodiles in Australia, as the average temperatures rise around the planet in Australia, saltwater crocodiles are changing their behavior slowly, starting to spend more time in maybe cooler waters. Have you experienced any differences in your area over the last maybe decade or two?
No, definitely the weather. Like all the climate scientists keep telling us, it's getting more extreme. The floods and storms and things seem to be becoming more frequent and more extreme. But as far as the crocodiles, I think they've been doing the same thing for millions of years, and I haven't noticed any change really. What a lot of people get mixed up in with is that they were hunted almost to extinction for their skins. So now that they're protected, they're slowly recovering, and as they recover, they're heading back into their normal habitat where they've been living for millions of years. But some of those places are cooler waters, and heading further south. So people freak out and think that they're out of control and that they're their numbers need controlling, that we need to control them, but we don't. They're just coming back to their normal habitat where they've been living for millions of years. And
Yeah.
we just not, a whole generation of Queenslanders has grown up here in an unnatural crocodile population, and now it's becoming a bit more natural. People are freaking out, when the crocodile turns up in their favourite swimming spot where they've been swimming for, them and their parents have been swimming there for a long, long time, and they think it's unnatural, but it's quite natural. But it's the scientists, they think that climate change won't bother them, the crocodiles, too much. They just head a bit further south as it warms up. But I really don't think they change their behaviour too much around here, other than starting to show up in places where the water is cooler, where people have been swimming. But it's not a change in the weather. It's just a change in the population of the crocodiles recovering back to normal numbers rather than being severely decimated by hunting.
Absolutely. And we had a similar thing happen in North America as well with the American alligators. And we hear this. I'm nowhere near alligator population, but I mean we hear it all the time.
Yeah.
The exact same thing. Um, do you have do you observe? You do, of course, obviously observe a lot of other species other than your saltwater crocodiles there. But are there some favorites aside from the crocodiles that people may see when they're touring with you?
Yeah, the crocodile is the most
It's the
the
king,
main
right?
attraction. That's what everyone comes to see. But yeah, we see other things. It depends on the time of the year and a bit of luck. But we've got snakes. There's tree snakes that come out to warm up. In the winter, they're a lot easier to see. They come out in the ends of the branches to warm up, and at this time of year, they're back in the shadows. A bit hard to see, but they like to eat frogs. So we've got a frog that lives on the boat called Bob the boat frog. He's very famous all around the world. He's missing at the moment. He's probably off breeding that time of the year, summertime. So Bob's off looking for a girlfriend. But in the winter, he sits on the boat all day long. And he's very big draw card. A lot of people want to come and see Bob when they arrive. So he's a white-lipped tree frog, the biggest frog in Australia, biggest native frog in Australia. Anyway, we have cane toads, which are bigger, but
Yeah,
they're not
yeah.
native. So yeah, we've got snakes. So we've got tree snakes. We've got the occasional python, which are much bigger than the tree snakes, but they're nocturnal, so a bit harder to find. But we do see them occasionally. Sometimes we have thousands of fruit bats on the side of the river roosting in the mangroves. They're flying foxes or fruit bats. They're huge, like they're a metre across the wingspan. Very large bats. So when they're all roosting in the mangroves, you get pythons turning up because bats are like chocolate to pythons. But at the moment they're nearby. You see them all heading out at sunset. But whenever you've got bats, you've got pythons and sea eagles. Big white-bellied sea eagles come flying in and try and grab a bat out of the tree every now and then. So we see them and see them occasionally fishing in the river. Lots of nice different types of birds. Kingfishers, very pretty kingfishers. We've got 10 different types of kingfishers in Australia. You can see 8 where we work, if you're really lucky. Kookaburra is a kingfisher. It's the biggest one in the world, kingfisher. And a kookaburra, a laughing kookaburra, famous Australian bird. What else? We got crabs, stunt crab. He's a famous crab that lives on the Daintree River. And yeah, we've got all sorts of crabs. It's a big part of the crocodile's diet is crabs. What else? Fish. We see fish. We see sharks. So yeah, 2 reasons not to swim in the Daintree River: crocodiles and bull sharks. We have bull sharks come up into the fresh water for some of their life. The young sharks, mostly small ones, but they head out to sea when they get bigger. That's about it. Yeah. So the crocs are the main focus, but we do see other things if we're lucky.
Awesome. So you speaking of back to the crocodiles, talking about them, um, lots of people don't know how to live alongside crocodiles wherever there are crocodiles. It seems. I live in a place where there are no crocodiles. However, being interested in crocodiles, you are bound to stumble upon terms like crocwise and outrage from individuals, like we were talking about briefly earlier, believing that crocodile numbers are out of control. For your area and what you do, what you are advocating for, can you tell me a little bit about what being croc wise actually means in Australia and your area, um, for
Yep.
the people
Well,
there?
you have bears where you are, don't you?
Yes, yes, lots
Yeah.
of bears and
Well,
moose.
it's very similar. So I'm sure you have to have education about how to live with bears and moose and safely. And, people need to follow those rules, otherwise they get hurt. It's the same with crocodiles. And they're actually very easy animals to live with. They live in the river. They don't chase you down the street. They eat fish and crabs most of the time, but they're opportunistic. They're a big animal. Of course, they can kill people, but as long as you're not in the water, not swimming where the crocodiles are, which is pretty sensible, or you're not standing right on the edge of the water. If you're back like about 5 meters, no problems. The crocodile is not going to bother you. They're ambush predators. They're very fast, exploding out of the water to grab their prey. But if you're back more than the length of the crocodile, you're going to be quite safe. So they're actually really easy animals to live with. And in this country, it's very easy because we're lucky that we're a developed country and we can have a shower in our bathroom, we can wash our clothes in the laundry. But in third world countries, it is very difficult living with crocodiles, and they have a lot more fatalities in places to the north of us, like Indonesia, where they have a lot less crocodiles we have here, but same sort of crocodile. They're not unique to Australia, and they have a lot more fatalities because of the lifestyle of the people. They have to go down the water, wash their clothes, or wash themselves. Many more people. And unfortunately, in those places, education is not going to work. Here, education can be 100% safe if you follow the rules. But in those countries, we have to try and help them by building infrastructure to help, keep people safe. So even as something as simple as a little bamboo fence in the water and around on the beach where the kids have a swim and wash their clothes, will keep the crocodiles away from the people. It is possible, and in different countries they have different attitudes towards crocodiles. There's a place to the north of us, not far away, called Timor-Leste, and the people there, they worship the crocodiles. All part of their religion, and their creation stories are about crocodiles creating the world, and they live very closely with them. They wash their clothes right next to a big crocodile, and they've learned to live with them. And if people do get killed by crocodiles, but they if someone does get killed, they don't blame the crocodile; they blame the person. Saying, "Well, they didn't follow the rules." Whereas
Yeah,
here, unfortunately, it's the other way around. And if a crocodile ever hurts somebody, it's always the crocodile's fault, no matter how stupid the
yeah,
person's being. Um, so, you know, croc-wise behaviour. We have a very good program here in Australia, and if you follow those croc-wise rules, which are pretty simple, don't go swimming in croc country and don't stand right on the edge of the water. Make sure you're in a big enough boat. Don't go out in a canoe; it's too small. And you can do all those things, and they will leave you alone. And it's only when people do dumb things that they get bitten. And they're actually, there's a lot of hysteria, of course, about crocodiles because the media love to sensationalise them because fear sells. But if you look at the statistics here, more people die each year from dogs, more people die each year from horses
yeah,
and
absolutely.
cows. Humans are more dangerous. But there's this perception. That's my never-ending job, is to try and change people's perception about crocodiles. And because, they're actually awesome creatures once you get to know them. They're like, they've seen the dinosaurs come and go and haven't needed to change. And they're not the killing machines everyone thinks they are. So every tour, I try and hopefully the people get off the boat having a new appreciation for crocodiles. They're not the killing machines everyone thinks they are, and they really just lie around doing nothing most of the time. But of course, they've got to eat sometime, but they are a very timid animal. They actually hide from people most of the time. But if there's an opportunity there, they'll take it. But we mustn't taste all that good because we see people doing dumb things all the time, and their crocs don't always take advantage of it. And a lot of people think that you should just leave it to Darwin's theory of evolution and get rid of those dumb genes out of the population. But unfortunately, if someone gets bitten by a crocodile when they're doing something really dumb, they go and kill the crocodile, which is really doesn't make any sense at all. Sending the message to the wrong species. We've got to teach people how to live with crocs, and it's very simple. People complain all the time. They think that we can't do what we used to do now that crocs are recovering, but We can still go fishing. We can still go camping. You just have to follow the simple rules and stay back from the edge of the water and make sure your boat's big enough and all that sort of stuff. And it's very easy. But the last two attacks we've had here in Queensland were people that are totally ignoring the warning signs, walking right past a crocodile warning sign and going for a swim or splashing around the water. And, it's all avoidable. Everything's avoidable. And also they ignored local advice from people that knew there was crocodiles there, and people just totally ignore them when in the water anyway. So you got to follow the rules, listen to local people that know what they're talking about. Unfortunately, with crocodiles, everyone that's ever seen one once thinks they're a total expert and knows everything about crocodiles. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and the media don't help at all. They just vilify the crocodiles and fear sells. So they love to sensationalize anything to do with crocodiles, and it tends to build up that hysteria in the community, and it's not justified. They just a big animal that live here, and they're very easy to live with, and they've been demonized because fear sells. But it's my job to try and change that perception and get people to understand that they're just like any other animal. They've got feelings, they've got emotions, they've got moods. They have a community they live in, and they know each other, and they know their place in the community. And they're just awesome because they are nature's perfection. They haven't needed to change. They got it right a long, long time ago. And obviously seen the dinosaurs come and go, and they haven't needed to change. They got it right a long, long time ago. So it is getting better. Years ago, like I said, they were shot almost to extinction for their skins. They estimate they shot 95% of them in Australia for their skins.
Wow.
So almost extinct. And they weren't protected here in Queensland. We were the last state to protect them in 1974. But Queensland's an unusual state. If you look on a map, Brisbane, the capital, where the laws are made, is way down the other end, a long way away. It takes a long time for the law to get from there up to here. So right up until the mid-'80s, people were still water skiing on the Daintree River where I work and still shooting every crocodile they saw illegally. These days, no more water skiing, hopefully no more shooting crocodiles. Does happen occasionally, still a few rednecks around, but generally, in my experience out there on the river for nearly 29 years, the population does seem pretty stable now. And but in the general area, they are still slowly recovering, like I said, and as they recover, they're returning to their normal habitat. And some of those places are, people's favourite swimming spots. So people make such a fuss that the government feel they have to do something about it. I don't always agree with our government, but sometimes they come out and they catch the crocodile that people are complaining about, and they take it away. And then we have a politician here who's crazy called Bob Catter. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he sort of modelled himself on Trump, I think. And he loves guns, and he just wants to shoot every crocodile. He used to be a crocodile hunter years ago. So he's just leading the charge for the cull. He wants to cull them. But the government, there's a lot of pressure on the government.
I actually have heard of him all the way in Canada, and it
crazy.
wasn't from me researching this topic either. I actually received an email for petitioning against.
Yeah,
this would have been a number of years back, but I had heard of this individual.
Yeah, he brings in bills to try and get through the Queensland government to allow culling, and we've beaten him every time, but he keeps on trying. This is into the fifth time he's tried just recently. We won again. But slowly the message is getting out there. During COVID, the IQ of far north Queensland here increased dramatically because a lot of people down south are sick of being locked up, and they decided to move up here. And the people from down south got here and they saw crocodile signs and said, "Yeah, there's crocodiles living here. I'm not going to go in that water." But unfortunately, the locals have been here for a long time and got used to swimming wherever they wanted to. They're the ones that need convincing, but the people up here that moved up here are really good, and it is slowly improving. And we used to have, when they tried to bring these bills in years ago, we go to a meeting and we'd probably be the only one there in favour of not culling the crocodiles, and the rest of the people, 99% of the people wanted crocs culled because they thought it'd make it safer. But obviously it doesn't make it safer. No matter how many crocs you kill, unless you're going to kill them all and make them extinct, there's always going to be another one coming back to take the place of the one that you get rid of. And you cannot make it safe, no matter how many crocs you kill, unless you make them extinct. And nobody wants them extinct. So we've got to, teach people how to live with them rather than killing them. But now, these days, and we have these calls for culling, is about the other way around, about 98% rather than 99% for it. They're 98% against it and sticking up for the crocodile. So it is slowly changing, and as the younger people grow up and realise that we have this amazing nature here, and they appreciate it rather than being scared of it. And we're very lucky that we do have these amazing animals living here, and they just very special, and I love them.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't blame you for that. And it's one of those species too where it kind of like in Canada with our moose, especially where we are in Australia, I think you guys should be proud of having saltwater crocodiles. That is an incredible species to be able to coexist with. An incredible animal that is millions of people's favorite animals around the world, right? Like it's not restricted to Australia. Everybody around the world loves saltwater crocodiles, and here's
Mm.
how how big and amazing they are, and it's very cool. And you were saying earlier, there's places in Australia um, that worship them as gods, and of course, as you know, there's people around the world that do the same thing with crocodiles in other places. And you know, I'm me personally, I'm not a religious guy, but if I was going to worship something, crocodiles kind of seem like they'd be one of the things where I'd be like, yeah, I could see worshiping
Yeah. It's
crocodiles.
not. It's not in Australia. It's up to the north of us, called Timor Leste, a different country. It's
Oh,
you
okay,
know,
okay,
independent country, but part of Indonesia, sort of thing. But yeah, here in Australia, unfortunately, they're not worshipped at all. But of course, the original people here had a great relationship with them, the indigenous
mm,
people, and they call him in our local language here for the people that live here. There's obviously lots of different tribal groups around Australia, and he's called Bilgamoo here. The saltwater crocodile is called Bilgamoo. It's in the local Yalanji language. They've been living here for thousands of years and going out, fishing on the Daintree River in their canoes, and had a really good relationship with them. It depends on their totem, but some of them hunted them, some of them didn't. Some of them thought they worshipped them, and they were very spiritual animal to them, and they believed that when their people died, the big crocodile would transport their ancestors around inside them. So they were a very spiritual animal, and they knew how to live with them in harmony for many thousands of years. So it's just learning how to live with them and education is what's going to keep people safe, rather than this attitude of people going out and shooting them, thinking that will bring out the good old days like the 70s. But in the 70s and 80s, when people used to swim wherever they wanted to, they were hunted almost to extinction. There were people trying to make a living from it. They were travelling to the most remote locations in Australia, even up in New Guinea, to try and get croc skins to sell for handbags and shoes. And you know, now, even if this politician was successful in getting a cull put in, there wouldn't be any motivation, any financial motivation to go out and shoot crocodiles. They just shoot the ones around the swimming holes, and they think it was safe, and they go swimming. But another one's going to come around the corner the next day and sneak in there. And it's that sneaky one that comes in overnight that nobody notices. That's the one you have to worry about. So,
yeah,
we can't make it safer. All the experts around the world, it's been proved many places all around the world with all sorts of different species that culling does not work, and they you have to educate rather than eradicate.
yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
the crocs, they are, even though they have the very low fatalities, people really do get very emotional about them. And I think it's because they're a big animal and they can eat us. And it challenges our ego. We like to think of ourselves being up the top of the food chain, where we're not. We can be part of the food chain if we do something stupid. And, I blame the Bible a bit. We have this, a lot of people think that the Bible tells us that we have this, where animals are there for us and that we have this domination over them. And that we are apart from nature, but we're just an animal like any other animal, and we have to fit into the whole ecosystem and learn to live with nature rather than fighting it all the time and trying to dominate it. And everyone thinks we have to control crocodile numbers. We don't. They were here long before humans even existed. They've been swimming around, seeing the dinosaurs come, seeing them go again, and they didn't overrun the world. They looked after their own population levels. That's what most wildlife does. Just us humans that don't know how to do it. And they don't need managing. We have to manage ourselves. It's all about educating people to live in harmony with crocodiles. And that's my, apart from entertaining people and showing them the crocs and enjoying the river, it's my message to everyone that when they get off the boat, hopefully they realise that it's all about education and learning to live with these animals rather than hating them and trying to get rid of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
what you do in your philosophy behind it is very important and one of the best things that can be done, especially for local conservation. Because I mean, it, people will see these animals around the world. It doesn't matter if it's Australia or Canada or the United States or Africa, like, and see animals, and when they learn about them, I don't know how many people I've had scared of snakes, or what my biggest is here is frogs. I don't know what it is, when I run educational programs, people are terrified of frogs here.
I know. I find
And
that really hard to believe. I get a lot of people on the
I
boat.
don't
They're
I've
terrified of frogs, and I can't
never
understand it.
experienced anything like it. It is so weird. I've never experienced anything like it.
Yeah,
More than the
I can.
tarantulas, David. Like,
Yeah, I know. I can understand
yes.
spiders and snakes. I think there's a little bit of an inbuilt fear in us just for survival.
Yeah.
Like you see a cat. A cat's never seen a snake in its life, and you move the vacuum cleaner hose, they jump in the air because it's in their
Yeah.
genes to be scared of something that looks like a snake. And I think us humans have that a little bit in our bodies as well. We're a bit scared of snakes with the shape of them and big spiders and crocodiles, of course, because they've big teeth and they're scary. But a frog, a little kid
And
frog,
frogs. Don't forget the
they
frogs,
don't
David. Don't
seem
forget the
very
frogs.
threatening. They don't
Frogs
seem very
are
threatening
my
at all to me.
I know. I
Little
totally agree
rubbery
with
frogs.
you.
Yeah,
They're my number one biggest fear when I'm running educational programs. But a
yeah,
lot of those people I get comfortable enough to get close to the frog by the end of it. And it's because they've learned, right? It's like you said, it's all about education. And of
yeah,
course, my frogs aren't, you know, people aren't scared of them eating them. But I don't know what they're scared of, to be
yeah.
honest.
I guess it's their little brothers when they were kids got might have teased them and put frogs down their shirt or something. Uh, one day I had Bob, the boat frog who lives on the boat. He was very hard to see, so I just gently took him out of his little hiding place and had him on my hand. I was walking down the boat, the aisle in the middle of the boat. There's one lady from Japan, Japanese lady, absolutely terrified of frogs, and of course Bob jumped off my hand and landed on her face, right
Yes.
on her
Bob
face.
knew.
She screamed so much that it peed all over her. So that was a bit unfortunate. Probably, you know, never the same again. But anyway, uh,
I'm gonna go on a limb and say Bob knew what he was doing.
he
Even
probably
if he
did.
didn't, I'm gonna believe, because it's what I choose to believe, that Bob knew what he was doing.
Yeah, Bob's a joker. Yeah,
Bob sounds like an awesome frog. I like frogs
he is. He
quite
is.
a bit.
Yeah, they're great. They're
So
great.
yeah, absolutely. Um, do you have people tell you, like, just to finish off what we were talking about there, like, like, I haven't thought about it this way, or I haven't looked at crocs in this way, because you're obviously not taking out people out on this river and scaring them about crocodiles. Like you said, you're teaching them and trying to educate. Do you notice a change in people when they leave,
For sure.
at
Yes,
all?
yes. Yeah, a lot of people come thinking that, they're terrified when they get on the boat. They think they're going to get eaten because, it hasn't got high sides. We don't feed them. We're not allowed to. It's against the law, and it's a good law. So the crocs just totally ignore us. And, the boat's reasonably close to the water. But there's no problems because they just don't associate us with food. And, yeah, people are really scared. But by the end of the cruise, they're not scared anymore. And they get off the boat having a newfound appreciation for the animal and realise that they really do just lie around doing nothing most of the time. It seems to be a good strategy for success is to lie around doing nothing all day, especially when they see how, they can be just like any other animal. They're good mums. It's really lovely when we see the females looking after their babies, and they're really maternal. And even the father sometimes looking after the babies. It's not a common thing, but we have seen occasionally the dad coming along and admiring the kitties. And, everyone thinks that the males eat the babies and they even kill the females. And, it doesn't make any sense when you think about it. What's the point of that? All about reproduction and continuing the species. But males, they hardly ever get aggressive towards the females. They get aggressive to other males, and they leave the babies alone. They're off limits. And I saw mother and a father crocodile admiring their little hatchlings, just sitting there for hours admiring them. One even climbed onto the male's head, and he tickled him and he shook it off, but he didn't. He had every chance to eat it and he didn't. So they're really maternal. And the mums look after the babies for about 2 or 3 months really well. Sit on their back and they keep an eye on them, trying to keep them safe from the big fish like barramundi, things that want to eat them. There's all sorts of predators for baby crocodiles, and so they get off the boat with a newfound admiration. And people tend to just think the reptiles aren't like mammals. We relate better to us humans, relate better to mammals because they're more like us. But crocs, and any reptile doesn't really have a really expressive face to show expression, but they still, like I said, they have feelings and emotions like any other animal. And there's been studies done on that they've actually measured. Sometimes I say that Scarface, our dominant male, is called Scarface. He's got a favourite girlfriend called Dusty, Dusty Rose, and he spends a lot of time lying on the bank with her in the winter. And even at this time of year, she's nesting now, but when he's missing, I bet he's up there hanging out with near Dusty. So she's definitely the favourite girlfriend. He's got about 6 girlfriends, but he's got to do his duty and go around and see the other ones. But he always comes back to Dusty and spends the most time with her. So I say, he loves her. And the scientists get really upset when I say that. They say, you can't say that. You're anthropomorphizing the animal, giving them human qualities. But someone's done a study and they've proved what love is. And, you can measure it. They've scientifically measured it in humans and other animals, that when an animal's with an animal that it likes, the endorphins go up, the hormones go up. And, even reptiles, it's the same thing. The reptiles feel emotions and love and have good feelings when they're with their favourite other reptile. So, they're just like us. They're just like any other animal. They've got emotions and feelings. And people appreciate that once they've seen them, hanging out with each other, holding hands on the bank and looking after their babies, and they it changes their whole perception. They've gone from being terrified when they get on the boat to getting off and thinking, oh, they're very cute. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
And it's really interesting to see how gentle the males actually are when it comes to females and babies. Like I see plenty more, lots and lots of footage when I'm looking and watching of males being like they're being sucky towards their girls, and they're checking on them and nuzzling and stuff. And it's a really cool thing to see, and it really puts them into a different perspective of they're not these cold-blooded killing machines that are
Exactly.
abandon their young, this and that. They're
Yeah.
intelligent and intricate species that we probably don't know the first thing about their social structures in the grand scheme of things, because
Yeah.
they're their own thing, and they've been doing it for, like we keep saying, millions upon millions of years, hundreds of millions of years. I don't think we know a tenth of it.
Yeah. No. They are. There's a lot to learn about crocodiles. They're very understudied animals. We don't know much about them, and we do help the scientists to study them, because it's a very unique situation where I work, is that I have been out there for a long, long time, and the crocs, they do get used to the boats. They actually know the tour boats. So, they'll sit there all day long if the weather's right, smiling for the cameras for us. But if a private boat comes on they don't know, they jump in the water and they hide. So it's a really good opportunity to study them, because they know us and we know them. I take photos of all the crocodiles. They've all got unique markings on their skin. They keep those markings their whole life. And, I've seen a mother carrying her babies down the water, took photos of the hatchlings, and then 15 years later, one of those hatchlings, we saw her carrying her babies down to the water, watched them growing up. And so the scientists have told me that when they go out to study crocodiles, they put their boat in the water in some remote location and the crocs all hide and they can't find them. So they end up studying them in zoos and crocodile farms, and they really behave differently when they're locked up, as do any species. So it's a really good opportunity to study them in their natural habitat, cruising around doing their own thing and tolerating us because we're out there all the time, and they just really totally ignore us. And we're learning a lot about crocodiles, and I'm sharing some of that information with the scientists. I'm not a scientist, but I get a lot of opportunities to take photos and videos. And, a couple of examples is one that the scientists, when they catch a crocodile to study them, they always cut bits off them, which is a bit depressing. they cut the scoots off the tail to identify them and show that they've caught it before and then they can recognise it in the future. But we've got one crocodile that done that too, and I've got photos of it since it was 3 years old. It's now 26 years old. So for 23 years, I've got photos of this crocodile that they did catch when it was only 3 and cut the scoots off. So we call it scooter. And so it's a really good example to show that because the scoots are missing, you can see the markings have not changed significantly. They changed a little bit, but they're not enough that you can't recognise the crocodile. So it's like a fingerprint. So we're trying to convince the scientists it's a valid way of identifying the crocodiles with a camera rather than cutting bits off them, which is a bit more barbaric. So that's one thing that we're trying to convince the scientists on. The other thing is that they all the textbooks say that the breeding season for the crocodiles is the spring. So late mid-September to October, November is the breeding season, the mating season, and other than that, you won't see them together. But because they're very solitary animals, that's all the textbooks say. In my experience out there in the river, I've got quite an extensive private collection of croc porn, filmed in April, May, June, July, August, September. So obviously there's no harm in practicing all year round. Definitely warms up a bit in the spring, but we definitely see them working on their relationships the whole year round. And, I've got a photo one day, Scarface is one of his competitors, a young male competitor. He doesn't fight with Scarface, but he sneaks around and tries to add to the gene pool when Scarface is not looking. So he tried to chat up his favourite girlfriend, Dusty, one day, and Dusty whacked him in the head. Oh. Much bigger crocodile than her, but she gave him a big headbutt, and he took off, and he's never tried to chat her up again. So if you show that video that I took to the scientists, they say, well, that looks like two males having a fight. And I know that from my experience and knowing the crocodiles very well, I know that it's a girl hitting a boy. And, you get the context when you're out there all the time, and it helps a lot to study them, knowing who's who and how they relate to each other. Whereas you just see a video without knowing them from years, you don't know what's going on. So it does help to study them over the many, many years.
Oh, absolutely. I bet it's extremely valuable, your time on the river and learning. And also, David, I'm going to need that croc porn album when we're done this.
The what?
But I'm going to need that croc porn album when we're done this.
You want the secret
for
password
my own
to
research.
the porn collection. Yeah, right. Okay.
Now,
the scientists sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
The scientists are really nice to me. They I'm not a scientist, but they think that what I'm doing is valid, and they're very nice, and they let me in on all the studies that they're doing and let me look at their studies, and I've got a scientist helping me to write up some of my observations over the years, which would be great if they can be accepted by the general scientific community.
And if so, like, would you be trying to get like something published, like a scientific paper? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm just in collaboration with the scientists, so they know how to do it all. They're all write all the right words, and the papers write the right way. So give them all the videos and the information. They write it up the right way. So that'll be great. Yeah.
If that happens, will you consider yourself a little bit of a scientist?
No, I'm not a scientist, but
maybe not
I'm
full
just collaborating.
time, but...
Collaborating with them.
Right.
So
I respect that.
Is a guy who lives up in Darwin. Like Darwin's like the mecca for crocs in Australia. They have easily about 10 times more crocs than we have here, and it's just a different habitat. Supports a much bigger population. So there's a guy up there that's been studying crocs for years. His name's Yusuke. He's Japanese, but he's been living in the Northern Territory for years. Yusuke. And he's writing up some of the papers for me, which is really nice. And there's another lady that I met at a big crocodile conference that I went to called the CSG. It's the international group called the IUCN. They protect endangered species all around the world. They have a subgroup called a crocodile subgroup, CSG. And I went up there and they got me to talk at the meeting, which is pretty nerve-wracking. I'm in front of 350 scientists from around the world, all talking about crocodilians, all very specific bits of crocodile study. But I just showed them some of my croc porn, and they loved it. And I met a lady there who is studying croc sounds. Her name's Sunny Flores, and she's studying croc vocalization. They don't say much, crocs. They're very strong, silent type, but they occasionally, when they're breeding, when they're courting, they make some great sounds, and the female especially makes a roar like a lion, which is quite impressive. The boys sort of respond with a rumble, which is sort of very deep, like an earthquake, and you can feel it in your body. If you're close by, you can feel it. It's a very low frequency, sort of a bit like Barry White, and deep, sexy voice that can lead to romance. But they don't make much sounds. The alligators in America, they're much more vocal, just like their human counterparts. But our crocs are the strong, silent type. They're very, very. They don't make much sound, but they do a lot of sub-audio sounds that we can see, and can see the vibrations off their back when they're sending out these vibrations we can't hear, but they can travel quite a long way. So that's another fascinating area. And this is the scientist. She's trying to record the sounds in the zoo, in Australia's zoo, Steve Irwin's zoo, but the filter sort of interferes with it a bit. The filter in the ponds interferes with the sound. It's a very low frequency. So I've shared about 80 videos with her of croc sounds that I've recorded over the years, and she's trying to make sense of all that. And we've helped her put out some microphones in some of the creeks to try and pick up sounds underwater. It's a long, drawn-out process. You have to be very patient studying crocodiles, because they, like I said, they just lie around doing nothing most of the time. But every now and then, if you're out there all the time, you see some interactions, you hear some vocalizations, and it's really quite exciting to hear that when you're close by. Like I said, you can feel it in your body.
Oh, absolutely. I could only imagine. Very cool. That's very, very cool. And it's, like I was saying earlier, valuable to science, which is really cool. Can you tell me about, we got to talk about Scarface.
Yeah, Scarface is
I
the
would love to
boss.
hear about him. Yeah.
He's the boss man. So he's a big boy. He's about 4.7 meters long, and he probably weighs somewhere around, between 400 to 500 kilos. And he's a dominant male. He's been the dominant male for about 23 years or so. Unfortunately, he's getting old. He is definitely slowing down. It's very hard to tell the age of a crocodile. Even the scientists can't work it out, even if they're dead. So it depends on genetics, how much food there is around, how warm it is, all sorts of things to affect how much they grow. But I've been looking at him for 23 years, and he hasn't got any bigger. So in theory, they take about 50 to 60 years to get to full size. So he's got to be up around 80 somewhere at least, maybe older. And his territory is shrinking. He's used to have a bigger area. He's used to have more girlfriends, but he's sort of downsizing a bit. He used to fight a lot. He's avoiding conflict in his old age. So, but he's been threatened a little bit just recently. There's been a new male hanging around. We call him the pork-sucking pensioner, because we see him eating pigs every now and then. And he hasn't got many teeth. He's only actually got 2 teeth. He's supposed to have 66, I think, is the normal number, and he's got 2. So, but that's not his main problem, because I've got a photo of him from 20 years ago with his mouth open, and he had 3 teeth. Now he's got 2.
Wow.
So it happens, they get thousands of replacement teeth through their life, but eventually, with old age and damage from fighting, they can run out. But he's just big and heavy, and that's what wins the fights, is the power of the headbutt, hitting other crocodiles to the side of his head. And as far as eating goes, he's still got the strongest bite of any animal in the world. So still give you a nasty suck. He can still drown you. It just takes him a bit longer to eat you. He's got to marinate you a bit longer. So, that's what they do. And most of the time he eats fish and crabs, but if you get something big like a pig, well, you've got to marinate it. Any crocodile has to marinate their food. I've got a crocodile tooth here around my neck. I don't know if you can see that, but it's
yep, absolutely
circular, and they're not designed for cutting. So they drown their prey, then they have to marinate it a bit. And most crocodiles take a few days. Scarface might take a week. Then they shake it and do the roll until something falls off. So when he got a pig in his mouth, he got him the pork-sucking pensioner, which is pretty funny, I think. So
Yeah,
this tooth
absolutely.
actually belongs to the largest crocodile in the world. This one it comes from a croc called Cassius, and it was given to me by the zookeeper. He was the largest. He died last year of old age, unfortunately, but he was 5.5 meters long, He had the record for being the biggest one in captivity alive at the time. So that's one of his small back teeth, that one there, but they get really, front teeth are huge.
Yeah, one of the small ones. I wouldn't want to
Yeah.
get bitten by it.
No,
To be honest, I wouldn't want to get sucked on by Scarface either.
no, you wouldn't. You
I
wouldn't want to
wouldn't
be
know very
punched
well.
out, basically. Yeah, sucked or bitten, it's still the same outcome. But yeah, even though he's old and he's got not many teeth, the ladies love him. He's their favourite. You know, all the girls love him because this new boy's been around lately and giving Scarface a hard time. He did actually, you know, we had a lot of damage on his head. He'd been bashed up, and he was very secretive for a while. And this other boy, one of the other drivers, called him the Beast. The Beast. Has been, he was swimming around like he owned the place for a while. And my partner and I, we go out at night time sometimes, and you know, you can see their eyes shine. The Beast is really shy. He won't let us get anywhere near him because he's new. He hasn't got used to the boats yet. But we saw him from a distance trying to chat up Scarface's girlfriends. He wasn't having any luck at all because all the girls are on Team Scarface. They love him, and they were. Yeah, all the girls are on Team Scarface. They love Scarface. They love his toothless smile, and he's very gentle and very nice to his girls. I've never seen him get angry to any of these girls. He's really nice. And this new boy he's starting to wonder what the hell he's doing here. You know, he wants to be the new boss, but he got no luck with the ladies. And Scarface is now recovered, and he's looking like the dominant male again. And the new one's skulking around, and he might leave again. Hopefully, he will leave again, and Scarface can live a long and happy retirement on the river with us. But yeah, it's going to be a very sad day if he ever does get kicked out or killed. Would be the terrible thing. So,
Absolutely.
but he's
Well,
very very really nice crocodile. Like I keep saying, they've all got unique personalities, just like dogs or humans or anything. They're just a reptile, but they still have emotions. They're just not as easy to see as other animals. And Scarface is a really lovely crocodile. I regard him as my friend, and loves us cruising along when he's beside the boat. So maybe 2 meters away, he cruises along beside us, and he still eat me if I fell in the water, but I still call him my friend.
mhm.
I wouldn't take it personally. It'd be very embarrassing actually if I ever got eaten by a crocodile, because I tell everyone to be croc-wise and croc country, and if I ever get eaten, it'll be my own stupid fault. But I'd always try to be croc-wise and croc country and never do anything dumb. And hopefully I'll live to be I'll die of old age, not Scarface's gummy mouth.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like Scarface, he's got his two teeth left. So, well, you said
Yeah,
what, 20 years ago he had three?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it
So it's not
sounds
the
like
end of the world.
you got
Not
another
the end of the
four
world.
to go. He's got to lose another one, and then the other one, and then he
Yeah,
can
he'll be
live to
right.
be.
No, even with no teeth at all, he'll be fine. Yeah,
Yeah, fantastic. Good to hear.
just whack each other with the side of their head. There's nothing to do with the fighting, and there's, he eats fish and crabs most of the time, just swallows them. But if he ever does get a big animal, he just has to marinate it a lot longer and let it get pretty disgusting. But they'll eat anything. They're scavengers, and it doesn't matter how disgusting it is, they'll eat it. They do a lot of scavenging. So anything dead in the river, they'll find it and they'll eat it. And a lot of people think they don't eat rotten food, but that's just not true in my experience, anyway.
Oh yeah. Even though I've noticed crocodilians almost sometimes tend to prefer the longer gone food, which is
Well, it's
not
easier.
my
It's easier to eat.
preference. But
They'll eat a fresh mud crab, no problem. Just swallow, crunch it up and swallow it straight away, or a fish, eat it straight away. But if it's big, it's just much easier to eat if it's a bit soft and a bit marinated.
yeah,
So it's just the ease of, they always do the easy option. Some people call them lazy. I call them energy efficient, but they don't do anything unless they absolutely have to. And then obviously it works for them and doing it for millions of years. So they understand exactly how to live and what to do and take the opportunities when they come, but otherwise just lying around and enjoying a bit of sun on their back in the winter, and this time of the year just happy in the water. And
yep,
thinking about the meaning of life. Who knows what they're thinking about? But people think they're dumb because they've got a little brain. Like Scarface is a big boy, but his brain will be about the size of a walnut. But the scientists have long since proved that size doesn't matter, and they have got a very good brain. It's got a big cortex, a lot of grey matter, very good at learning. Some zoos, they've taught their crocs up to 20 different commands using treats. I got a dog that only got about 2 commands, so he's smarter than your average Labradoodle. Yeah, so they are really smart and obviously know exactly what they're doing because they've been around for so long.
yeah, yeah. I've noticed a lot of that intelligence too. So in some ways different than other animals, but we've through my now since ended zoological career, we did a lot of training with all of our crocodilians, with our Niles, with our saltwaters, our caimans, our alligators. We never ever had one that didn't catch on.
Yeah.
I
Who was
mean,
the
we
smartest?
made progress day one for all of them. They're incredibly intelligent animals.
Who's the smartest of them all? The smartest species?
Uh, the see, it's different. Like you said, they all have different personalities, right?
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
smartest I've ever worked with is an alligator named Mojo, but
Yeah.
that alligator has with my mentor Steve, um, uh, her entire life training with them, entire life.
Yeah.
The the Nile and the saltwater we had were very similar sizes. We had I believe it was a little male Nile. He was about 10 foot long. Um, very lean, very lean male. And same thing about a 10 foot long female saltwater. And that was a female. And they weren't together. They were two separate enclosures, but they were right next to each other. And out of those two, the Nile was very shy, very shy, and the saltwater scared me. She was she had quite she demanded respect for sure. She was a sassy
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah.
At the time, I almost expected the opposite. I expected the Nile to have more of a
Yeah.
pushiness to him, and maybe as they aged, he would, and she would calm down a little bit. But she was very smart. She outdid him, the Nile, for sure. Um,
Hmm. But she's a girl.
uh,
Girls are clever. Yeah. So
she caught
I've
on quick.
talked to
She caught on
people.
quick.
I talk to people that work in zoos, and they say, yeah, they work with alligators, and they sort of sit on their back and give their jowls a rub, and they love it. And go
Yep.
into a pen with just a small, 2 meter salty, and just wants to attack them straight away. I think
Oh,
they're
she
just
was
totally
explosive.
different
That would
animal.
be the
Yeah, just
perfect
much
word. Yeah,
much more
perfect.
aggro. But yeah, that's in a zoo, and they don't like being locked up. So in the wild, they're our ones are really calm. They're very calm,
Mm.
and I've noticed that I have been to zoos or crocodile farms where you walk past the pen and they just attack the fence because they're not happy. They don't like being locked up. Just like humans, they get all aggro when they're locked up. But our crocs are real calm, and they just lie around and cruise past you, and they're just not aggro at all. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's to
Very
do with the where they've been restrained. They don't like it, the salties.
Yeah, I think it's also very. I think an it's a better way to experience them too, just in a sense of uh, well, it's. I mean, you get to see behaviors that you would probably never see in captivity too, right? And
Yeah,
I'm pleased to say that we didn't go out and buy saltwater and Nile crocodiles. They were surrendered from other facilities that weren't supposed to have them.
yeah.
But yeah, it would be definitely a dream to see, especially a crocodile as impressive as Scarface is, and somebody who's an individual who's been reigning over his kingdom for as long as he
Yeah.
has,
No,
doing what he does best.
if you want to get on a plane and fly for 30 hours or so, you can come and have a cruise with me.
Hey, I'll do anything to see some crocodiles. It would be awesome to come down, and I'll
Yeah,
definitely
well,
take
we'd
you up
love
on
to
that.
take you
First
out and show you
visit.
around.
Can you? This new male? Does he have a name?
One of the other drivers called him the Beast. Yeah, the
Beast. You
Beast.
said that right. You did say
We're
that.
not sure if he's going to stay or not, but I haven't had a good look at him, but he's definitely a new one. Whenever we see a new crocodile, we take photos and we try and look back through all the old photos to see if we've seen him before, but we can't match him up with anyone. They've all got unique markings. And he's a similar size to Scarface, but he looks a lot younger. Old crocs like
Yeah.
Scarface are all beaten up. Their faces all misshapen and their heads all got lumps and bumps missing and really, white patches on their face where they've had some serious damage in the past. This one looks very young and healthy looking, hardly any damage, but he's very cocky when he first arrived. But now Scarface has recovered and he's realizing he's going to have to work a lot harder if he wants to be the boss croc here. He thought he could just come in and take over and beat up Scarface, but now he's being very shy and very secretive, and he's going to have to work a lot harder. Scarface is not a quitter. I've seen that over the years. Even though he's old and he's slowing down, he's never going to. I think he'll keep fighting to the day he dies because he loves his territory, he loves his girls, and he's not going to give up easily. So this new boy is going to have to put in a lot of work and a lot of effort not just to win the territory, but to impress the girls as well. They take a lot of impressing, because Scarface is a really lovely partner to them. He's very gentle, and he shares himself around. He always comes back to Dusty, the favourite, but he lies on the bank with them in the winter, no pressure, just lying next to them, touching, holding hands sometimes. Very romantic. And they're big, long beach, plenty of places for them to lie separately, but they choose to lie next to each other. They really do enjoy each other's company, even though they're not regarded as a social creature. They definitely seek out each other and hang out with each other, the male and the female. Obviously, the girls don't hang out together and the boys don't hang out together, but yeah, the beast is all alone. He's he's lonely. So hopefully he goes back to where he came from, and Scarface can be the dominant male for a lot longer yet, because we call him the king, and we always say, "All hail the king." Yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
Now, am I mistaken in remembering that he maybe within the last year or two returned from a disappearance?
Yeah, he went missing a few years ago.
Yeah.
Around this time of the year, he went missing. Um, and we were quite worried about him because he was missing for 31 days. We didn't see him. And we were worried that he'd, died of old age, or he'd been kicked out. And we couldn't find him, but I put a story about it on my social media, and it went a bit viral, and it
I
got picked up
remember. Yep.
all around the world, and even the New York Times did a story on where's the king. The king is
Yeah.
missing, and the BBC did stories about it in England and in New Zealand, in the newspapers. He really is a celebrity, and he was very well known. And just like the other king, the king of rock and roll, there was all these alleged sightings of the king. Oh, he's here, he's here, he's here, he's here, but none of them were verified. So eventually he turned up, and he turned up. I think he'd been hiding with Dusty, his favourite girlfriend, because he came out of the creek where she nests. And there was worldwide celebrations, all around the world. I did a live stream of him swimming out of the creek, and people from Japan crying, and people in Europe, all around the world, just saying the king is back, and everyone was celebrating. And it was really, really good to see, and a very happy day when he came back. And
I was actually in that live stream too. I
yeah,
remember that,
that's
which is
good.
why I brought it up, because I remember seeing that post of him coming back and all that, and it was exciting. It really was.
Yeah, it was exciting.
And
Yeah, it was very good. So I'm very much attached to him, and yeah, I really, get sad when he goes missing for a while. I worry about him. But it's at this time of the year, he's just sometimes hiding for a while, and with his girlfriends, and they're very secretive about their nesting. But they're fascinating creatures, and obviously we give them personalities, and on the social media and on
so it
Facebook and
works.
Instagram,
You did a good
there's
job. It worked.
we call it the Days of the Daintree. It's a soap opera, the Days of the Daintree, and all the gossip and what's going on in the background, and it makes people get addicted to it. And I remember in COVID, when everyone was locked up, the people were just saying thank you so much. They felt like they were doing virtual tours, because we weren't locked up. We were allowed to go out in the river, but there wasn't any tourists. But we still go out and take some videos and put them online, and people just loved it because they've locked up in the cities, and it really kept them going and knowing what was going on the Days of the Daintree and the soap opera.
Yep. It's definitely a good way of doing it, and I mean, if it wasn't, I don't think everybody around the world would have heard of it or seen it. Or, I mean, like you said, New York Times for a crocodile out in a river in Australia, it's a
Yeah,
pretty big deal.
yeah,
Like, that's very, very
yeah.
cool.
It
I
was.
mean,
Yeah.
they don't even really have alligators in the States doing that. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
so, um, you know, maybe American crocodiles if anybody in the States knew they were there. But, but they don't even really tend to know that they're
No,
there.
that's the thing.
So
That's what the scientists have told me, that there's not many cases anywhere in the world where people have been, watching crocs this closely for this long.
yeah,
And and it is a really unique situation, and it is a great way of learning about them, because they do behave differently in different places. But yeah, there was another guy called Cooley. Cooley was in South Africa, and he wasn't a scientist, and he just sat there and studied the crocodiles way back in the 70s, and he watched them very closely and took notes and got to know them very well. And he started telling the scientists that the crocs were actually maternal, and no one believed him. Back in the 70s, they just said, "Oh no, the adults eat the babies," and and they don't. They're carrying the babies down to the water in their mouth, and everyone thinks they're eating them, but it does look a bit that way. But they're actually just carrying them down, and they spit them out when they get in the water, and the babies hang around and sit on their backs. And he was saying how maternal they were, and nobody believed them because everyone just in those days thought all reptiles, were not maternal at all. I think most reptiles aren't, but crocodiles are. And some people say I'm a bit like this Pooley guy, and it's quite a big compliment because he was a groundbreaking person that just, you can learn a lot by just observing. That's the scientists have told me that, they go out to study them, and they might have the funds to go out, do a study for a month or so in the year, but I'm out there, every day, and different times of the year they do different things, and you miss them if you're not there all the time.
Yeah.
So we're following the steps of these great people and trying to learn more about them. And I've met some of the really top scientists in Australia here that have mentored me a bit. They invited me to that crocodile conference, which was very nice of them. It was quite an honour to get up there and talk about my crocs and that I've seen and got to know in front of all these worldwide experts from all around the world that study crocodiles. So Gordon Grigg is one guy. Gordon Grigg studied crocodiles his whole life. He's in his 80s now and retired, but he's a really nice guy. And there's another guy called Lawrence Taplin. He's lives here nearby, and he's retired too, but he still helps the government with the scientists. And he discovered the salt glands in the saltwater crocodile. They didn't know where they were. This is back in the 70s, I guess. They didn't know where they were. He said he was looking everywhere for the salt glands. They knew they could handle salt water, but they didn't know where they were. They're looking up their backside and all sorts of places. And, eventually they found them on their tongue. But usually the crocodiles are looking at were tied up and their mouth was tight shut, so they weren't looking. But eventually they found the salt glands on their tongue. So that's why the saltwater crocodiles can drink the brackish water. So all these scientists have been very good to me, and I really appreciate their help, and I'm very humbled by them, the fact that they invite me to these meetings. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's I can imagine it's nice to be appreciated by them, which is, and I said it I think 3 or 4 times now. I think it's it would be crazy not to see how valuable your experience and your time on that river is with these animals who it's some of them you've watched grow up from
Yeah. Yeah.
babies, and that's incredibly valuable because it's in a setting where if anybody does, it's very, very few people get to experience that.
Yeah.
And so the fact that these people who are trying to learn more about crocodilians, whether it be for their conservation or just to learn how these guys work,
Yeah.
it's good that they can go to people like you who
Yeah.
there's a
One
term
of the
for it
other,
that's been going around called citizen scientists, citizen science, which
oh
I
yeah,
recently
yeah.
learned. Yeah.
It's a great thing. That's what we do. We do citizen science. And another scientist I forgot to mention is Graham Webb. You've probably heard of
Mm.
him. He's like the
Yep.
grandfather of crocs, and I met him when I was up in Darwin. He's a lovely guy. But yeah, citizen science is really good. I do a lot of macro photography at home at night, and put it on iNaturalist. iNaturalist is a really good citizen science platform, and you put all these things you find on there, and all the scientists watch the iNat, and they can work out the range of animals and when they're there, what sort of times of the year, and it's quite a fun with insects and doing macro that you can go out just about every night around here in the tropical rainforest and get lifers. What the bird watchers call lifers. New insects just about every night. It's amazing
Yeah.
how many different insects there are in the world, and even with the crocodiles, you put them on iNaturalist as well, and people can learn about them and learn their range and their habits. And it's a great resource, this iNaturalist. Yeah, it's really good.
I browse iNaturalist a lot, especially for garter snakes, which is what I'm really into.
Oh
So
yeah,
I'm
that's pretty
always
well.
on there
Yeah,
looking to see what people have posted and their relatives from Europe
yeah,
and I promised myself I wouldn't mention garter snakes on this episode, and I failed. Now, I'll start to wrap this up. Just
Yep.
as I know you got off work today, it's also 4:15 in the morning where
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, better go to bed. Yeah,
driving.
yeah, yeah.
But I do want to ask, before that, do you have any worthwhile, um, interesting, or any stories or anything you'd like to mention before we sign off here?
Uh, mm,
And if you don't, I'll cut this part
well,
out, so don't worry.
that girl I was talking about that I saw from a baby to become an adult, um, it's one we named a bit early. So it's very hard to tell the gender of a crocodile. So it was over 2 meters long, and we called it Bruce. In
Uh-oh.
2021, Bruce had some babies. So Bruce is
Uh,
obviously a girl. When we thought about changing her name to Caitlin, but we decided that she'd sort of got used to Bruce and identifies as
yeah.
Bruce. She's still Bruce, Bruce the girl. So yeah, we have to be patient if we want to give them a gender specific name. And, you really have to wait about 15 years, which is a long time
Yeah.
to wait, because that's usually when our girls start having babies. They can have babies young. I read one paper about in a severely decimated population, the girls will actually get their reproductive organs earlier and can reproduce as young as 8, and they will nest every year and try and bring the species back to a stable, sustainable level. Whereas our population is pretty stable now, and our girls don't nest until they're about 12. They can nest when they're 12, but they usually nest when they're about 15, and they don't nest every year because the population is stable. They don't need to contribute to it. So yeah, it's really interesting. They control the population level, which is what most species do around the world, but not us humans.
No, not even a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Another story. One day I took out this a group from a nursing home of old people, and they all follow the Days of the Daintree on Facebook in their nursing home, and they came out to see if they could see the king, and we found him, and they all stood up on the boat and said, all together, they said, "All hail the king!"
Oh,
It was
fantastic.
so sweet to see all these oldies lift up their hands and say, "All hail the king," because they were just dying to see him. And luckily we found him. So that was really sweet to see all these old, 80, 90-year-old people that have been following the soap opera on the Daintree, and then they got to see their hero, the king. Yeah, one of them
Yeah.
was 90-something years old.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so that was
fantastic.
a
Also
good
shows
moment.
you people in Australia still worship crocodiles, which is
Yeah,
fantastic.
it's getting better. It is getting a lot better than it used to be. We are very lucky to have these living dinosaurs amongst us. Very lucky. Like I said, they've got a big range. They're found all the way up to India, right up through Asia, but a lot of countries they're virtually extinct, like in Vietnam and places like that. So in Australia, we've got this. What the conservation is from a conservation angle, it's a big success story that we've protected, and they come back to very healthy numbers and starting to stabilize now. It was a quick rapid increase, but now it's stabilizing as they reach their the environment's carrying capacity, and so it's a big success story as far as conservation is concerned. But not everyone thinks it's a success story because they can't swim wherever they want to do anymore. But it is very great that Australia has brought these back from the brink of extinction, and unfortunately, in other places where it's much more built up, it's very hard for them to come back. But we're lucky we still have some fairly remote areas here in Australia. And but as the human race keeps on expanding, unfortunately, there's more pressure on the crocodiles. The more humans there are, the less habitat there is, and it's much harder for the poor old croc. So that's my message all the time: is to try and educate people and learn to live with these amazing animals rather than hating them and trying to get rid of them, because they are very easy animals to live with.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, very good message. I think you have a visitor who just showed up on your ceiling there, who I've been watching the last 30 seconds.
A gecko.
A little gecko or something I saw
Yeah, we
coming
got
frame.
geckos. Geckos live in the house. I've got this
What is
curtain. You like
that?
my curtain? This curtain
That's
behind me
very
is
cool.
made out of fishing lures. So on the river, we, often see fishing lures that got stuck in the mangroves. When the tide goes down, I pick them off the mangroves and we take the hooks off them and make it into a fishing lure
Nice.
curtain, fishing lure curtain. And yeah, we got geckos. They're geckos. They're just a little, I don't know which ones they are, Asian house geckos, I think. But
Okay. Yeah.
they live on the ceiling. One night we had 68 on the ceiling.
Nice. Wow. Now those first of all, as a avid fisherman myself, that curtain's very cool.
It makes the fishermen cry. They cry when they see it. I'm not a fisherman, so
I
you
like
like,
it. I like it.
I don't know if you
Um,
can see my uniform I'm wearing. It's all
yes.
back to front for me, but it says Croc Country.
Okay. Yes, I do see it. Yeah.
Yeah, Croc Country. Yeah, no,
Those
we have a very outdoor sort of a house here, and we have a little snake
yeah.
that likes to live in the house sometimes. It's called a jungle python.
Okay.
Uh, it's a variation of a carpet snake, and he sits up on the curtain rail there behind me. He's very
Oh,
cute.
nice. Yeah.
He's grown up in the house.
Yeah. I just got garter snakes this far north. Ontario, we have quite a few species, but as far north as I am, we just got the one.
Yeah,
But
it's too cold for
they're
them.
my favorite, so I'm okay with it. Those Mediterranean house geckos there. I used to work at a pet store when I was about 12 or 13, and we had to stop bringing them in. Like by law, changed the law because of us, because we accidentally had some get out, and our building was connected to a series of apartments. But within about a year, every single apartment building had Mediterranean house geckos, and it didn't end. Still has not ended. That reptile store
Uh,
no longer exists,
oh
and they
dear.
still have Mediterranean house geckos. We also had bouquet geckos feral through the store, but we managed to get them under control. But the house geckos, they're not going anywhere.
They're very
Uh,
cute. They make a little chirping sound in the nighttime. They chirp.
yeah, I love them.
They
I think
run
they're
around the
fantastic.
ceiling. It's amazing seeing them running on the ceiling. They can run. It's just amazing how they can run upside down.
They're very
Yeah.
cool, very very cool animals. David, I would love if you could advertise, plug your business and whatever else you'd like to plug before we sign off here.
No, I'll just, if you have a look at the website, it's just called Solar Whisper. You can see what we do on the website, or just follow us on Facebook or Instagram. And it's just Solar Whisper. You look it up there, you'll find that on Facebook or Instagram, Solar Whisper, and you might get addicted to the soap
Mhm.
opera, and you can you get a little bit addicted. So a bit of a warning there. Once you start watching, you might not be able to stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can relate
Thanks
to
very
that.
much for
Yeah.
having me.
No
Yeah,
worries.
thank
And
you.
all that stuff is going to be in the description of wherever you're listening to this. So check out David's Instagram, his Facebook, his website. All that stuff is going to be linked. And thank you very much for coming on, David. You were super awesome to talk to, and it was a great opportunity to get to meet you and talk to you.
Pleasure. It's been very nice to talk to you too. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Get some sleep. See you
Yeah.
later. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Creature Crossing. Please check the description for social media links, Patreon, and more. Feel free to subscribe and leave us a review. The song used for our intro and our outro is called The Snake Eater's Palace, Outer Heaven by Audio Mocha, Anime Vivi, and Endless Repeat, which we found at ocremix.org. Thanks again for listening.